Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and for all the talk from Boris Johnson and his Brexit sidekick David Frost that the UK would not be blinking in the EU talks, as they say Theresa May did, this week he's done it again by backing down from yet another futile deadline. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, it's the EU summit today. This is where Boris Johnson was hoping that EU leaders would agree that the framework of a deal was on the table and that they'd signal their approval for the final stage tunnel talks to proceed. Now, to add a little bit of pressure for the EU to do this, Johnson engaged in his usual game of threats by saying that if this did not happen, he would pull out of the Brexit talks with the EU altogether. Right? You're deciding this week or it's all off. It's all off. We'll just have no deal. We're fine with no deal. The problem is he's already done that before. Johnson had previously said that if insufficient progress was made by summer, he would walk out of the talks. Insufficient progress was made by summer. And that wasn't just the viewpoint of observers or the EU. The UK side said as much, very clearly, extremely clearly. Did Boris Johnson walk away from the talks? No, clearly not, because they're still going on. Now, here's something I learned as a young teacher many moons ago. And parents will also have learned the same lesson. So maybe if Johnson had done a bit of parenting, he would have learned this lesson before as well. You never, ever, ever issue an ultimatum unless you are prepared to follow through with it. Because here's the thing. Impotent threats will work now and then. You know, if you use it on someone who thinks, oh, I think they're serious, or they just don't want to take the risk, it'll work. At some point, however, someone is going to call your bluff, either by accident or by design. If even once you do not follow through, you lose the power of every single future threat you decide to issue. And Boris Johnson has no follow through. And so it was this week. We don't have to wait for the EU summit to conclude. I thought I may have to. No. EU leaders have already said that the decision to trigger so-called tunnel talks will not be taking place this week because there's still issues that need sorting out. EU officials have sort of said, look, we're quite happy that negotiations are now taking a much more constructive tone. But there's still issues. Those issues are not quite ready for the final stages. And those same EU officials had already dismissed Johnson's deadline anyway by saying, well, look, the end of October is the realistic deadline to get agreement, not the 15th. That's just Boris Johnson's random deadline. So Johnson had been told that he wasn't going to get what he wanted this week. His bluff was called again. Now, according to all the Brexit boneheads, we're pulling out the talks now. Because that's what he said. And not only did Johnson say that that's what we would do, but he also says, in his Brexit boneheads chorus, that we'll be fine with a no-deal Brexit, that we're fine with that, we're okay with that. In fact, you'd think we're only in talks as a favour to the EU. Well, we're trying to be nice to the EU by giving them a deal. I mean, we know they're desperate for a deal. We're trying to be nice and give them one, but they don't want one apparently. So that's fine, we'll just leave without one. That is despite the fact that Boris Johnson's own ministers are engaging in discussions about mounting calamities being described, as a result of there being a no deal. Be another one I'll have to do tomorrow. But no, of course, we're not pulling out of talks. Of course not. Boris Johnson has said that the talks will continue. Another bluff called, another blink in the face of the EU. Michel Barnier even ridiculed Johnson for it. That's how pathetic he's seen now. So on the news that the UK had backed down on their impotent deadline threats, Barnier remarked that it was the third time that this has happened. Now, I'm not sure what the other time was. If Johnson has backed down from a third unilateral deadline, I've forgotten it. The point is that Boris Johnson has issued threats with clear consequences on more than one occasion and has backed down each time. And the fact that Barnier would ridicule Johnson for this was, I thought, potentially telling, because I would have said it was normal diplomatic behaviour. When you're sort of at the sharp end of fiddly talks, you probably don't ridicule the other side. You don't poke fun at their lack of follow through if you actually want a deal. And you think so does the fact that Barnier has taken this line indicate that at the end of the day they're taking Brexit talks as something that's essentially outside of their control? Because no matter how much they engage, the success or failure of the talks is essentially down to the whims of lunatics in the Conservative Party. Do they now see it as either a deal will be done or it will not? We've set out our position. We're prepared to be flexible in these areas, but at the end of the day, we also need these things to be in place. We've got to protect the single market, though that's the framework that the UK want to engage with that or not. If they do, we can get a deal. If not, then we won't, and we'll just leave it. I mean, ahead of the summit, Angela Merkel gave a speech. So Germany is the EU president at the moment. And in this speech, she was actually appealing, not so much to the UK, but to certain EU members. She was trying to sort of suggest that EU members need to be a bit more flexible with the Brexit talks. She made a point of saying that, look, to get a deal, the UK need to be able to sell it as a win back home, just like we need to get what we want as well. Now, that was an interesting statement because, first of all, it shows just how much Germany does bat for the interests of the UK. For Brexit supporters, in other words, people who never pay any attention to the EU goings on at all, may come as a surprise that Germany has been a very close ally of the UK in the EU. It's therefore a shame that the Brexiteers always single out Germany for their most vitriolic attacks. But that is because they don't really attack the EU. They attack the idea of the EU, which is a bit of a fantasy. They just poke at Second World War tropes. They've never had any real criticism of the EU. Not strong, there are always criticisms, but not strong enough to actually get the people of Britain to want to leave. So they spent decades never letting the 1940s fade in the warped memories of people who were not actually around for them. But secondly, more practically, the statement also shows that there are countries in the EU, perhaps France chiefly, whose demands are so at odds with the UK that a deal is genuinely very, very unlikely. This is an intervention from Merkel effectively. The fact that she's made this statement at all suggests, well, first of all, that she wants a deal, but also that she doesn't think one will happen, even if the UK finally falls on all the issues it politically can. Because it does have to be said, and obviously Merkel understands this, Johnson can't just agree to anything. I mean, we all know he's for folding. Everyone knows he's for folding. He has no backbone at all. But he has nihilistic nutters in his parliamentary party in Westminster who will not sign off on just any old deal. They need to get what they want as well. But like I've said before, Macron has troubles of his own. And this may not just be France, but you would think France chief amongst them. They're struggling with their second wave, just like we are in the UK. And just like in the UK, this is not reflecting well upon the government. They've just announced 9 p.m. curfews in a number of areas. The last thing the president wants, I imagine, is to look like he's backing down over Brexit. Especially given that people in France are not nearly as worried by a no-deal Brexit as people in the UK. That is not to say that such an outcome would not be bad. But there are benefits as well, to at least balance it out as such. There's the news this week that another 150 billion euros has just left the UK shores for France. So 150 billion euros worth of assets have left UK banks for French ones. That means now we must be up to about 1.5 trillion euros worth of assets that has left the UK for EU banks now. It's a staggering loss of business for the UK's most important economic sector. Staggering. So perhaps Merkel's intervention was because she thinks that countries, like France, are not necessarily bothered about a deal unless it's, much more on their terms. It could certainly be argued that the EU could cope with the chaos of a no-deal Brexit longer than the UK. It would be less damaging. And given that the UK, a no-deal Brexit here, the government have already said what is likely to happen. And it may well be that in the event of a no-deal Brexit, mid to late January, perhaps the British side will reevaluate our needs. Some are certainly arguing that. We'll let them just see what a no-deal Brexit is, and then let's see if they change their mind about their red lines. I don't know, I'll have to see. What I do know is that Boris Johnson has made a lot of the fact that he would succeed where May had failed because he would hold his nerve. He would not blink. But he has now blinked twice, 3 times according to Barnier, and he would know. So if Johnson really was basing his strategy, genuinely, on sitting steely-eyed across from the EU and engaging in a game of chicken, and he has no other strategy to fall back on, then we are basically buggered because that strategy has failed yet again. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.